The Galactic auction house was a place that sparkled with lights and sounds from all corners of the universe. Creatures of every shape and size crowded the massive hall, each with their own strange and colorful features. Some walked on 2 legs, others floated, and a few even had more than 6 limbs. The air smelled faintly of metal and energy, mixed with scents that no human nose could normally recognize. It was loud, chaotic, and exciting all at once, a place where fortunes could be made or lost in the blink of an eye. On this particular day, a group of aliens stood nervously by a platform at the center of the hall. They were whispering among themselves, their voices sharp and melodic in a way that made human ears twitch. On the platform was a small creature wrapped in a soft blanket. Its fur was pale and almost glowing white, the kind that made it look delicate, almost like it didn't belong in the noisy, bustling auction house. Its eyes, large and round, looked around with innocent curiosity. The aliens were anxious. This wasn't just any creature. They called it an albino baby wolf. To humans, wolves were mysterious but fascinating. To these aliens, however, it was considered ugly because it did not fit their usual standards of beauty or strength. Its fur was too pale, its features too soft, and its body too small. Some whispered that it might never grow into a strong hunter like the wolves of their home worlds. Others scoffed at its tiny, trembling legs. The auctioneer, a tall alien with shimmering scales and long, thin fingers, stepped forward. Its voice echoed across the hall like a musical note stretched too long. "Ladies and gentlemen of the galaxy," it began, gesturing dramatically to the creature, "here we have a rare albino wolf pup, unlike any other in existence. Its origins are mysterious, and its potential immense. I am sure you will all agree that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." A murmur went through the crowd. Some aliens leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. Others rolled their eyes. They had seen countless rare creatures, but none so unusual, so fragile-looking. The blanket covering the wolf was removed slowly, and the small animal stepped forward, revealing its full body. Its fur shimmered faintly under the lights, almost like moonlight on snow. Its ears twitched at every sound, and its eyes so large and expressive looked around without fear or anger. Across the hall, a human stood quietly. He was a mechanic by trade, someone used to working with machines and engines, not interstellar auctions. Yet here he was, drawn by curiosity and an urge he could not explain. He had traveled to this part of the galaxy to study alien technology, but the noise and excitement of the auction had pulled him into its orbit. He watched as the crowd reacted to the wolf. Some aliens laughed. "It's worthless," one of them said, pointing at the pup. "It will never be strong enough for hunting or racing." Others whispered about its color, calling it strange and unnatural. The human shook his head, almost smiling. To him, the baby wolf was not ugly. It was small, yes, and its fur was pale, but there was something pure in its gaze, something that made him want to protect it. He felt a strange pull, as if the creature somehow understood him. Even from a distance, the auctioneer raised a hand, signaling that the bidding would begin. The alien crowd straightened, eager to claim what they saw as a rare but unappealing prize. Some of them called out numbers, strange sequences of symbols that represented currency in the galaxy. The human, unfamiliar with this system, frowned. He did not understand the numbers, but he understood the feeling. The wolf might be taken away, sold to someone who would see only its appearance and not its heart. He stepped closer, trying to get a better look. The baby wolf noticed him immediately. Its head tilted, and for the first time, it let out a soft whine. It was a tiny sound, almost like a whisper, but the human understood it perfectly. It was not fear. It was curiosity. He extended a hand, keeping it low so it would not seem threatening. The wolf took a cautious step forward, its small paws pressing against the smooth platform. It sniffed the air around the human, its nose twitching. For a moment, the chaos of the auction seemed to vanish. The human and the wolf were the only ones in the room. He could see the intelligence in its eyes, the gentle nature that the aliens had ignored. He felt his heart tighten. This creature did not deserve to be judged by looks alone. He wanted to save it, to take it somewhere safe, to give it a life where it could grow without ridicule or danger. The auctioneer's voice broke the silence. Let the bidding begin. It rang through the hall like a bell. Numbers started flying again, and the tension in the air thickened. The aliens were eager to outbid each other, seeing the pup as a rare commodity. Some were curious, some greedy, and some genuinely interested in its abilities. Though none seemed to care about its feelings, the human realized he had to act quickly. He did not know the alien currency, nor did he understand the rules fully, but he had one advantage: determination. He raised his hand, trying to signal that he wanted to participate. Some nearby aliens laughed. A human? One of them sneered. Do you even know what you're doing? He ignored them. He focused on the wolf, who had now taken another cautious step toward him, its small tail flicking in curiosity. It was as if the creature knew he was different from the rest, that he would not harm it. He felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of fear and hope. This was the moment where he decided he could not leave without it. The auctioneer called out another number, and the bidding intensified. The human thought fast. He did not have the usual money, but he had something else: cleverness, persistence, and a willingness to fight for what was right. He stepped closer to the podium, trying to communicate with gestures and words the alien could understand. He offered a combination of tools, parts, and whatever he could trade, showing that he valued the wolf not as a commodity, but as a living being. The aliens looked at him in disbelief. A human, small and seemingly weak, challenging their auction with strange offers and gestures. The room buzzed with excitement, whispers, and laughter. Yet the wolf seemed to respond, inching closer to the human, as if sensing the intention in his heart. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing second. The auctioneer paused for a moment, studying the human and the wolf. It was unusual, even unprecedented, to see such a connection form in the middle of a high-stakes auction. The crowd murmured. Some were irritated, others intrigued. But the human did not care. He was focused entirely on the small creature in front of him. He could feel its heartbeat, hear its soft breathing, and see its trust in his eyes. For the first time that day, the baby wolf seemed to relax slightly, curling a little toward him. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. The human smiled, feeling a surge of determination. No matter what happened, he would not let it fall into the wrong hands. He had come here as an outsider, a simple mechanic. But now he had a mission: to protect this tiny, pale wolf that had already captured his heart as the bidding continued around them. The human and the wolf shared a silent understanding. This was just the beginning of their story, a story that would take them across the galaxy and into adventures neither of them could yet imagine. But in this moment, in the middle of the chaotic auction hall, there was a quiet truth. Some connections are immediate, and some creatures, no matter how small or unusual, are destined to change a human life forever. The lights glimmered. The aliens shouted their numbers, and the wolf watched the human with trust in its eyes. And in that trust, he knew he had found something far more valuable than any treasure the galaxy could offer. The human mechanic could not take his eyes off the albino wolf pup, even as the auction continued around him. With aliens shouting numbers and making deals, his mind was fully on the small creature in front of him. He had never felt this way about an animal before. In his world, animals were companions or tools, but this pup stirred something deeper, something protective and curious at the same time. He could feel that it needed him, and perhaps he needed it too. He stepped a little closer to the platform, trying to find a way to communicate without frightening the wolf. His hands moved slowly, open and gentle, showing no threat. The pup tilted its head, sniffing the air, its tiny ears flicking in curiosity. It was small, fragile, and clearly out of place in the noisy, chaotic auction hall. But there was a spark in its eyes, a spark that made him feel that this creature was special. Beyond what anyone else could see dot around him, the aliens were growing impatient. "It's worthless," one shouted, waving a hand dismissively. "It won't survive on its own. What a waste of space." Others muttered about its color, saying it was too pale, too weak, too strange. The mechanic felt a wave of frustration. He had heard this kind of judgment before, though never from aliens. People in his world often overlooked the quiet, the fragile, the misunderstood. He understood what the wolf was feeling, even though it couldn't speak. The pup took a tiny step forward, unafraid. It moved toward him, as if sensing that he meant no harm. The human bent slightly, letting his hand hover just above the platform. "Hey there, little one," he whispered softly. His voice was calm, steady, full of warmth. "Don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you." The wolf's eyes seemed to widen, and for a moment, the chaos of the auction faded away. It was just the two of them, locked in a silent understanding. The auctioneer noticed the moment and paused, tapping its long fingers together. "What is this?" it said, its voice a mix of curiosity and irritation. "A human interfering with the auction? This is highly irregular." Other aliens around the hall murmured, some with amusement, others with disapproval. But the mechanic didn't care. He had come for more than just curiosity. Now he had a mission. As the bidding continued, the mechanic tried to figure out how he could possibly win the pup. Alien currency was strange and complicated, a mix of energy credits, rare minerals, and items he didn't even recognize. He had no idea how much the pup was worth in their system, but he knew one thing clearly. He couldn't let it go to someone who would see it only as a commodity. He needed to find a way to offer something valuable enough to get the pup, without losing everything he had brought. He looked around at the objects he had with him: tools, mechanical parts, a small collection of gadgets he had picked up from his travels. Perhaps they could be traded. Perhaps his knowledge could be valuable. He raised his hand and tried to get the attention of the auctioneer again. The hall quieted for a moment. Some aliens snickered. "A human thinks it can barter?" one of them said mockingly. Ignoring the laughter, he stepped forward. He spoke slowly, using gestures and a few alien words he had learned on his journey. I can give tools. Machines, knowledge. For this wolf. Not because I want it for trade, but because it needs someone to care for it." His voice was calm but firm, full of sincerity. The audience could feel the emotion in his words, even if they didn't fully understand them. The pup responded immediately. It moved a little closer to him, placing a tiny paw on the edge of the platform. Its small body shivered slightly, but it didn't retreat. The mechanic smiled, feeling a connection stronger than anything he had expected. He could feel the wolf trusting him, relying on him in a world that seemed cold and judgmental. This small, fragile creature had chosen him, and he knew he couldn't fail it. The aliens around the auction table were becoming restless. Some were annoyed by the interruption. "This is ridiculous," one shouted. "The human doesn't even know the rules." Others, however, were intrigued. A few creatures leaned forward, whispering among themselves. Perhaps there was something unusual about this human, something that made him worthy of the pup. Perhaps it was his courage, or perhaps it was the bond he seemed to share with the wolf. The auctioneer raised its voice again, trying to regain control. "Bidding continues. Any offers must follow the rules, or the item will be removed." It looked at the human skeptically. "And you, human, what do you offer that is of value?" The mechanic took a deep breath. He didn't have rare minerals or powerful energy credits, but he had something else: his skills. "I offer knowledge," he said. "I can fix machines, improve technology, solve problems. I have tools, parts, and ideas. I can make your lives easier if you give me the pup. Not for myself, but for it." His voice was calm, confident. There was no arrogance, only determination and honesty. A hush fell over the hall. The aliens had never seen a human speak like this before. Most were used to haggling with other species, using wealth or power as leverage. But this human offered something different, something intangible but valuable. The wolf seemed to understand, too. It moved closer to the human again, curling slightly toward him. Its trust was clear, its choice unmistakable. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The crowd watched, curious and uncertain. The auctioneer's long fingers tapped together, considering. Finally, it spoke. "Very well," it said slowly. "Your offer is unconventional, but we will allow it. The pup is yours, if you can meet the requirements of the trade." The human nodded, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. He quickly began arranging the items he had brought, showing the auctioneer that he could deliver what he promised. The wolf watched him the entire time, its eyes bright and full of understanding. It was as if it knew that its fate was finally changing, that someone had stepped up to see it for what it truly was, not what others thought it should be. Once the trade was agreed upon, the mechanic carefully lifted the pup into his arms. It was lighter than he expected, fragile and trembling slightly. He held it close, speaking softly to calm it. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I'll take care of you. I promise." The wolf relaxed a little, nuzzling his chest, as if confirming that it understood. The aliens around them watched in silence. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others whispered about the human's courage and the unusual bond he had formed. The auctioneer tapped its fingers again, muttering about irregularities and unpredictability. But the mechanic didn't care. For the first time in the chaotic, noisy hall, he felt a deep sense of purpose. He had saved the pup, and in doing so, he had discovered something about himself, about compassion, trust, and the strength it took to stand up for what was right. As he walked away from the auction platform, the wolf curled gently in his arms. He could feel its tiny heartbeat against his chest, steady but small. He whispered softly to it, telling it that everything would be fine, that they would find a safe place to live, away from judgment and cruelty. The pup responded with a soft whine, as if agreeing, and pressed its head against his shoulder. They moved through the hall, the crowd parting as the human carried the wolf. Aliens who had doubted him now looked on with a mixture of respect and curiosity. The human's determination and kindness had won where wealth and power could not. And the wolf, small and fragile, had found someone who truly understood it. Outside the auction house, the air felt different. It was cooler, fresher, and less tense than the crowded hall inside. The human took a deep breath, looking down at the pup. "We did it," he said quietly. "You're safe now, and I'll make sure nothing ever hurts you." The wolf blinked slowly, its small body relaxed against his chest. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that neither of them could have imagined when they first met in the chaos of the auction. For the human mechanic, this moment was more than just saving a creature. It was a lesson in empathy, in seeing beyond appearances, and in understanding that even the smallest, most overlooked beings can have an enormous impact on your life. For the wolf, it was the beginning of trust, of safety, and of a bond that would grow stronger with each passing day. As they walked away, the sounds of the auction faded behind them. The human knew challenges lay ahead, traveling across strange planets, caring for a creature unlike any other, and facing beings who still might not understand their bond. But in that moment, holding the albino wolf pup close, he felt a profound sense of hope. Together, they were stepping into a future filled with possibility, adventure, and the quiet power of trust. And so, their journey began not just as a mechanic and a strange little wolf, but as companions, partners in a story that was only just starting to unfold across the stars. The human mechanic walked out of the Galactic auction house, holding the small albino wolf carefully in his arms. Outside, the sky was a swirl of strange colors, a mix of purples, blues, and golds that no human sky had ever shown. Ships and vehicles of all shapes moved between floating platforms, carrying beings and goods across the bustling city of the alien world. The mechanic had never seen anything like it, and he knew he had to be careful. He carried a small creature that was not only fragile, but also extremely valuable to many who might not share his compassion. The wolf nuzzled closer to him, pressing its tiny head against his chest. Its small body shivered slightly, and the mechanic realized that, although it had survived the auction, it was still scared and unsure. He whispered softly, "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." His voice was calm and gentle, and the pup seemed to understand. Its ears twitched, and it relaxed slightly, curling against him. He needed to find a safe place to take it. The city was busy and loud, and there were creatures everywhere who might want to take the pup for themselves. The mechanic knew he had to move carefully. He started walking toward a small transport station, hoping to find a vehicle that could take him to his temporary quarters. His mind raced with ideas for keeping the wolf safe, thinking about warmth, food, and comfort. As he moved, the pup's eyes scanned the strange world around them. Every noise made its ears twitch. Every shadow made it turn its head. The mechanic smiled softly. "I know it's all strange. I promise, once we're safe, it'll be easier. You won't have to be afraid anymore." The wolf let out a small whine, a sound that seemed to mean agreement more than fear. Reaching the transport station, he found a small shuttle that was preparing for departure. He negotiated quickly, offering tools and knowledge as payment, just as he had during the auction. The shuttle operator eyed the pup with curiosity, but the mechanic explained it simply, "It's just a little creature. I need to keep it safe." The operator shrugged and let them on, and soon they were soaring above the alien city, leaving the chaos behind. During the ride, the mechanic watched the wolf closely. It was quiet now, resting against him, but he knew it was still alert. He started talking to it, softly explaining what was happening. "We're almost to a place where you can rest, eat, and feel safe," he said. "No one will hurt you there. I promise." The wolf lifted its tiny head briefly and looked at him, its eyes shining with trust. That small look made his heart tighten with a mix of responsibility and care. Once they landed, he carefully carried the wolf to his quarters. The space was small but clean and warm, with a few tools, mechanical parts, and some simple supplies he had brought along. He gently placed the pup on a soft blanket, letting it explore the area slowly. The wolf sniffed around, cautious but curious. It found a small corner and curled up slightly, its ears flicking at every sound. The mechanic watched it closely. "Take your time," he said quietly. "There's nothing to be afraid of here. You're safe with me." He realized that this was more than just caring for a creature. This was building trust. The wolf had been through chaos and fear, judged for its appearance, and now it needed to learn that someone could care for it without expecting anything in return. Over the next few hours, he began to feed it. He had some basic food items, and while they were not ideal, the wolf ate carefully, sniffing everything first, as if testing whether it could trust him. He spoke softly all the time, encouraging it, letting it know that it was not alone. The wolf's trust grew with every gentle word, every careful action. By evening, the wolf seemed a little more comfortable. It played lightly with a small tool the mechanic had set aside, batting at it with its tiny paws. The mechanic chuckled. "You're curious, aren't you?" he said. "I like that. Curiosity is good. It helps you learn." The wolf gave a small whine that almost sounded like agreement, and curled back up against him. The human knew that tomorrow would be more challenging. Others might come looking for the wolf. Its unusual appearance and rarity made it valuable not just to those at the auction, but to others across the galaxy. He would have to be careful, and he would have to think ahead to keep it safe. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The pup was alive, it was safe, and they had formed a bond stronger than words could describe. That night, as the alien stars shimmered outside the window, the mechanic lay near the pup, keeping it close. He realized that this was more than just a rescue. It was a responsibility, a connection that changed him. He had worked with machines for most of his life, fixing engines, adjusting circuits, and solving problems with logic. But this caring for a fragile living creature was different. It required patience, empathy, and attention to feelings that no machine could teach him. The wolf stirred in its sleep, making tiny movements that suggested it was dreaming. The mechanic watched quietly, fascinated. Even in sleep, its small body carried an elegance that was invisible to most people. It was not the kind of creature that could be judged by looks alone. He felt a swell of determination. No matter what challenges came next, he would protect it. He would ensure that it grew strong, not just in body, but in trust and confidence. Morning came with a soft, pale light. The mechanic had prepared a small area for the wolf to move around, adding blankets and a few toys. The wolf explored cautiously, sniffing each corner, testing the space. The mechanic stayed nearby, speaking softly, praising it for each small step. "Good job," he said. "You're doing great. I'm proud of you." The wolf responded with a small whine and a wag of its tiny tail, signaling that it was starting to feel safe. They spent the day together, exploring the quarters and beginning to understand each other. The mechanic realized that the wolf had intelligence beyond what he had expected. It seemed to recognize patterns, responding to his voice and actions in ways that suggested it could learn quickly. He experimented gently, teaching it to follow simple commands, rewarding it with gentle words and small treats. The wolf's confidence grew with each interaction, and the bond between them deepened. By evening, he could see a change. The wolf, once trembling and unsure, now approached him with a small confidence. It played lightly with his fingers, nuzzled against his chest, and even attempted to climb onto his lap. The mechanic laughed softly. "You're brave," he said, "and smart too. We're going to do great things together." The wolf gave a soft whine that felt like agreement, and curled up against him again, but the mechanic knew their safety was not guaranteed. The auction had drawn attention, and others might come looking for the rare albino wolf. He spent the night planning, thinking about how to move if necessary, how to secure the space, and how to ensure the pup's well-being. He prepared food, blankets, and small barriers, making a safe and comfortable environment. He even designed a small mechanism to alert him if anyone approached unexpectedly. Combining his mechanical skills with his new responsibility. Despite the careful planning, he never let it affect the bond he was forming. Every moment he spent with the wolf, he focused on trust and companionship. He spoke softly, offered gentle touches, and allowed the wolf to approach him on its own terms. He understood that force or pressure would only harm the connection they were building. Patience was key, and he had plenty. By the end of the day, the mechanic and the wolf had established a routine: feeding, exploring, learning, and resting together. The small creature had begun to show personality, curiosity, intelligence, and moments of playfulness that made him smile. He realized that this was more than rescue. It was friendship. The pup depended on him, yes, but he depended on it too. It had brought a new purpose into his life, one that no machine or tool ever could dot. As night fell again, the mechanic watched the wolf sleep peacefully. Its tiny chest rose and fell with steady breaths. He whispered to it softly, "We're safe for now, and we'll keep getting stronger, together." The wolf twitched slightly, as if acknowledging the promise. In that moment, he understood that this was only the beginning. Adventures and challenges awaited them, but their bond was strong enough to face anything. The human mechanic had started his day as a visitor in an alien world. By the end of the second day, he had become the protector of a rare, fragile creature, a companion that had chosen him without question. And in the quiet moments, when the stars shone outside and the universe felt vast and endless, he realized something simple and profound. Sometimes the smallest, most fragile beings could teach the greatest lessons about courage, trust, and love. Together, they would face whatever came next. And together, they would discover that appearances were never the measure of worth. The morning sun, or what passed for a sun on this alien planet, cast soft, colorful light across the city outside the mechanic's small quarters. The human woke early, glancing down at the albino wolf pup, who was still curled up in a blanket, its small body rising and falling gently with each breath. For a moment, everything seemed calm, quiet, and safe. But the mechanic knew the world outside was unpredictable, and in the galaxy, rare creatures like his new companion were never truly safe for long. After breakfast, he spent time checking the perimeter of his temporary home. Using his mechanical skills, he adjusted small sensors and barriers, making sure that no unwanted visitor could get inside unnoticed. He glanced at the wolf, who watched him with wide, curious eyes. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I'm making sure we're safe. Nothing is going to happen to you on my watch." The wolf let out a small whine and pressed closer, as if understanding that its safety depended on him as much as its own caution. Hours passed, and the human settled into a routine of feeding, cleaning, and interacting with the pup. He noticed how intelligent it was, how quickly it learned from simple instructions, how it responded to his gestures and tone. The wolf would follow his hand, paw at objects he introduced, and even nuzzle him in small gestures of trust. The mechanic smiled often, feeling a warmth he had not experienced in years. Caring for the pup was becoming more than a responsibility. It was a partnership. Then, as the afternoon sun shimmered through the unusual alien sky, he heard the faintest tapping outside. At first, he thought it might be the wind or the distant hum of machinery from the city, but something felt different. The tapping grew louder, more deliberate. His heart rate quickened. He crouched near the pup, who had immediately stiffened, ears twitching and body low. Something was approaching, and the wolf could sense it. The mechanic moved quietly to a small window and peered outside. He saw shadows moving along the walls of the building. Two figures, tall and swift, moving with the precision of trained hunters, were approaching. Their intentions were clear. Rare creatures like his albino wolf were highly valuable, and these strangers had likely tracked the auction or heard about the pup. The mechanic's mind raced. He had to act quickly to protect the wolf. "Stay here," he whispered, though he knew the pup would not obey unless it felt safe. The wolf pressed closer to him, sensing the tension in his voice. He quickly scanned his quarters, looking for anything he could use to delay or scare off the intruders. He picked up a few small devices, some mechanical tools, and even a simple energy flare he had brought along for emergencies. He had never expected to use them this way, but survival often demanded creativity. The first intruder tried the door. It was locked, but the alien lock was sophisticated. The human's mind worked quickly. He activated a small device that emitted a loud, piercing sound designed to disorient approaching machinery. The intruder froze, covering its ears and stepping back. The second intruder moved more carefully, trying to bypass the alarm, but the human had anticipated this. He released a small smoke device that filled the corridor with a thick, colorful haze, obscuring vision. The wolf watched all of this with wide eyes, its body tense but unafraid. It had learned to trust him, and in that trust it found courage. The mechanic moved closer to it, whispering words of reassurance. "It's okay. Just stay close to me. We'll get through this together." The pup nudged his hand as if acknowledging the plan and pressed against him. Minutes felt like hours. The intruders tried to push through, using their strength and agility, but the human's quick thinking slowed them. He used his environment to his advantage, moving objects and tools to create obstacles, forcing the intruders to hesitate. He wasn't just defending the wolf, he was improvising, relying on experience, courage, and a deep understanding of his companion's behavior. Finally, seeing no easy way inside, the intruders retreated for the moment. But the mechanic knew this would not be the last attempt. They would return, and he had to be ready. He turned to the pup, gently stroking its soft fur. "We're safe for now," he said quietly, "but we'll need a better plan. We can't stay here forever." The wolf let out a small whine, nudging his chest, as if agreeing with him. That evening, he began preparing for what would come next. He gathered the pup's supplies, making a small portable kit with food, blankets, and a few toys. He checked his mechanical tools and devices, making sure everything was ready for travel. He even began plotting routes to move quietly through the city, avoiding crowded areas where the pup might be spotted. Each decision was guided by a single thought: keeping the wolf safe. The bond between them deepened during these preparations. The wolf followed him from room to room, its trust evident in the way it nuzzled him and responded to his voice. He taught it small tricks, not just for play, but for safety: how to stay low, how to move quietly, how to sense danger. The pup learned quickly, and each successful interaction strengthened their connection. The mechanic realized that their relationship was no longer just human and animal, it was a partnership. They relied on each other, each providing skills and instincts the other lacked. Night fell, and the city outside became a mix of shimmering lights and distant noises. The mechanic sat with the wolf, holding it close. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we'll find a safer place. Somewhere no one can reach us easily. You'll be safe, I promise." The wolf pressed against him, small paws resting on his arm. Its trust was complete, and in that trust, the mechanic found both responsibility and comfort. Sleep came lightly that night. The mechanic rested near the wolf, one hand on its soft fur. Every so often he would stir, listening for any hint of danger, but none came. For a few hours, at least, they were safe, and the mechanic allowed himself to breathe. He thought about the auction, about the chaos, about how fragile yet determined they had been in the first part of their journey. The intruders had reminded him that the galaxy was full of dangers, but it had also shown him the strength of the bond they shared. The next morning, he woke early again, the pup already alert and watching him. They had a routine now, a quiet rhythm of preparation, care, and trust. The mechanic checked all the exits and devices, planning for another move if needed. He could feel the wolf's anticipation, and he whispered, "Soon we'll move somewhere safe. You'll see, a place where no one can bother us, where you can grow without fear." The wolf nudged him, soft eyes full of understanding before leaving. He spent time strengthening their connection. He played lightly with the pup, encouraging exploration and curiosity. Each game, each gentle touch, Each soft word reinforced the trust they had built. The pup learned to respond not just to commands, but to emotions, when he was serious, when he was calm, when he was worried. The human realized this was the beginning of a new life for both of them. One where instincts, intelligence, and empathy would guide them through challenges. Finally, with preparations complete, they stepped into the city again. The human held the wolf carefully, moving through the streets with caution. He watched for shadows, listened for unusual sounds, and stayed alert for any signs of the intruders. The pup, though small, stayed close, confident in his guidance. Together, they navigated the bustling alien world, a team formed not by coincidence, but by trust, care, and courage. As they moved, the mechanic couldn't help but marvel at the little creature he had rescued. Once judged as ugly and weak, the albino wolf had shown strength, curiosity, and a remarkable intelligence. In return, the human offered protection, guidance, and patience. Together, they faced the challenges of a galaxy that often valued appearances over heart, teaching each other lessons about trust, courage, and the power of connection. By the time night fell again, they found a temporary hiding spot, an abandoned storage area high above the city streets. It was quiet, shielded from view, and safe for the moment. The mechanic laid out blankets, food, and toys, letting the wolf explore freely. The pup moved cautiously at first, but soon it ran and played, testing its surroundings, gaining confidence. The human watched, smiling softly. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I'll always keep you safe." For the first time since the auction, the human allowed himself to relax completely. The day had been tense, full of danger and quick thinking, but they had survived. The wolf, small and fragile but courageous, had proven that trust and courage could overcome fear. And the mechanic, careful, patient, and clever, had shown that kindness and determination could protect even the most vulnerable as they settled for the night. The mechanic realized that this was more than just a rescue. It was the start of an adventure, a life shared between two beings from very different worlds, bound together by trust and care. They had faced the first challenge, and though more awaited, they were ready. Together, they were stronger than the dangers of the galaxy, and together they would face whatever came next. And so, high above the city streets, the human and the albino wolf pup rested, their bond deeper than ever. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but for now they were safe, and that was enough. They had each other, and in that they had everything. The morning light crept gently through the small storage area they had made their temporary home. The human mechanic woke first, glancing down at the albino wolf pup, who was already awake, its bright, pale eyes watching him carefully. The wolf stretched its tiny legs, yawned, and then nudged him gently with its nose. It was a small gesture, but it carried a lot of meaning. The pup trusted him, and he felt the weight of that trust in his chest. He smiled softly and whispered, "Good morning. Ready for today?" The wolf gave a tiny whine in response, as if agreeing. Today, he thought, they would start training, not just to make life easier, but to help the wolf understand the world, protect itself, and grow stronger. After the chaos of the auction and the intruders, he knew it was time for the next step in their journey. They began simply. He showed the wolf how to respond to his voice, teaching it to come when called. He used gentle gestures, soft words, and small rewards, pieces of food or gentle pets. The wolf learned quickly, its intelligence shining through. It was remarkable how fast it understood, how carefully it watched his movements, and how eagerly it tried to please him. "Good job," he said, smiling as the wolf completed a simple command. The pup's tail flicked, and it nuzzled his hand. "See? You're smart. Very smart." The human realized that intelligence wasn't just about responding to commands, it was about understanding the world, reading situations, and forming connections. The pup already excelled in all three areas. As the day went on, he introduced more complex exercises. He taught the wolf to navigate small obstacles, encouraging it to jump over low barriers, weave between scattered objects, and move quietly when needed. The wolf was playful but careful, learning to trust both its instincts and his guidance. Every success brought a sense of accomplishment, not just for the wolf, but for the human as well. Their bond grew stronger with each passing hour. During a short break, he watched the pup explore the storage area. It sniffed every corner, tested small gaps, and occasionally darted to him as if seeking approval. He laughed softly. "Curiosity is good, but stay close, okay?" The wolf barked lightly, a small, sharp sound, and then returned to his side. Even in play, it demonstrated a remarkable awareness of his presence and intentions. As the days passed, he noticed something extraordinary. The wolf seemed to have abilities beyond what he expected. It could sense approaching dangers long before he noticed them, responding to sounds or movements that were almost imperceptible. Sometimes, when he touched a device or tool, the wolf would paw at it or nudge him, guiding him to fix something before a small malfunction became a problem. It was as if the pup understood cause and effect in ways that went beyond normal intelligence. One evening, while they were practicing in the quiet of their temporary home, the wolf reacted to a faint sound outside. He had barely noticed it, but the pup's ears twitched, its body lowered, and it moved closer to him, alert and tense. "Good job noticing that," he whispered, gently rubbing its head. "You're amazing. You can sense things I can't." The wolf looked up at him, its eyes bright and attentive. As if understanding the compliment, the mechanic realized that this little creature, once called ugly and weak, was truly remarkable. Its pale fur and fragile appearance had made others underestimate it, but its intelligence, instincts, and sensitivity were unmatched. He felt proud, protective, and inspired all at once. He knew he had to nurture these abilities, to teach the wolf to trust them while also trusting him completely. Training became more structured. He introduced exercises that combined obedience with problem-solving. He hid small objects and encouraged the pup to find them, teaching patience and focus. He set up small mazes and obstacles, helping the wolf learn navigation and agility. With each challenge, the pup became more confident, more skilled, and more aware of its own strengths. During breaks, he also focused on comfort and trust. He let the pup rest on soft blankets, spoke gently, and allowed it to explore at its own pace. He understood that fear or pressure could undo all their progress. Patience was as important as skill, and he dedicated himself to providing both. The wolf responded with loyalty, affection, and a remarkable willingness to learn. One day, he noticed something incredible. While adjusting a small device, the wolf pawed at it and pressed a tiny lever. The device sparked to life, more responsive than he had expected. He stared in disbelief. "Did you just do that?" The wolf barked softly, as if acknowledging the action. It had not only watched him, but had begun to understand the function of objects and their effects. Its intelligence and perception were extraordinary, and he realized that this pup could do much more than survive. It could thrive in ways few could imagine. With this new understanding, he adapted their training. He began introducing simple mechanical tasks, encouraging the wolf to explore, nudge, and interact with devices. The wolf learned quickly, using its paws and nose to manipulate small tools and mechanisms. Each success was celebrated with gentle praise and affection. The pup's confidence grew, and with it, a deep trust in him as a teacher, protector, and companion. The mechanic also focused on their emotional connection. He spoke to the wolf as he would to a friend, sharing thoughts, plans, and reassurances. "We're going to face challenges," he said one evening, brushing its soft fur. "But we'll handle them together. You're not alone anymore. I'll be with you, and you'll be with me." The wolf pressed its head against his chest, a gesture of agreement and trust that made him feel both responsible and deeply connected. He began planning for the future. They couldn't stay in the city forever. It was too dangerous, and the wolf's abilities would attract attention. He thought about finding a safe place, somewhere remote, where they could train, explore, and live without fear. But preparation was key. He needed supplies, tools, and a strategy. And he needed to ensure the wolf's comfort and safety every step of the way, not in the evenings. After training and planning, they rested together. The wolf curled against him, relaxed and content, while he reviewed his notes, repaired tools, and made plans. The bond between them was no longer just human and animal. It had become partnership, friendship, and trust. Each relied on the other, not just for survival, but for companionship, guidance, and emotional support. One quiet night, the mechanic looked at the wolf, marveling at its progress. "You're incredible," he whispered. "Everyone else was wrong about you. You're strong, smart, and brave. And I'm going to make sure you get to show the world that." The wolf blinked slowly, curling closer, as if understanding the promise. Days turned into weeks. Their training grew more advanced, combining obedience, agility, problem-solving, and awareness. The wolf's abilities became sharper, its confidence stronger, and its trust in him unwavering. The mechanic discovered that they complemented each other perfectly. His human intelligence and mechanical skills, combined with the wolf's instincts, perception, and intelligence, created a team capable of facing challenges together. They also developed routines for safety and comfort. Meals were organized, rest areas prepared, and exploration times scheduled. The mechanic introduced new games and challenges that encouraged the wolf to think, plan, and act independently while staying close to him. Each day, he observed its progress, adjusting training methods and providing gentle encouragement. The wolf's behavior began to show signs of understanding more abstract concepts. It could sense patterns, predict movements, and react with remarkable precision. Sometimes it seemed to anticipate problems before they arose, guiding the mechanic's actions with a paw or nudge. The mechanic marveled at this intelligence. He knew that they were not just growing together, they were evolving together. As they rested one evening, the mechanic reflected on how far they had come. From the auction house to the temporary quarters, from fear and uncertainty to trust, confidence and skill, the journey had changed both of them. The wolf had learned to trust, to follow, and to act independently. The human had learned patience, empathy, and the importance of partnership. Together, they were stronger, smarter, and ready for whatever the galaxy could throw at them. He smiled softly, brushing the wolf's pale fur. "Tomorrow, we'll start planning the next step," he said. "A place where we can be safe, where you can grow, and where we can explore the galaxy together. You're not just a wolf, you're my companion, my friend, and my partner." The wolf nudged his hand in response, and he knew that the bond they had formed was unbreakable. For the first time since the auction, the human mechanic felt a deep sense of hope. The wolf, once called ugly and weak, was proving its strength, intelligence, and courage every day. And together, they had learned that appearances did not define worth, that trust and care could build bonds stronger than fear, and that even the smallest, most fragile beings could change lives in the most extraordinary ways. The night passed quietly, with the wolf curled up beside him. They were safe, they were together, and they were ready. The adventures ahead would test them, challenge them, and reveal the wolf's unique abilities to the galaxy. But for now, they rested, confident in their bond, and ready for the next stage of their journey. And so, in the quiet of the alien city, the human and the albino wolf pup continued to grow together stronger, smarter, and inseparable. Their partnership was no longer just about survival. It was about true. The human mechanic awoke to the soft glow of alien sunlight filtering through the storage area. The albino wolf pup was already awake, standing alert, its pale fur shimmering in the light. Over the past weeks, they had grown inseparable. Training, exploring, and surviving together had forged a bond that neither of them could ignore. The human smiled as he watched the wolf stretch and yawn, then nuzzled him gently. "Good morning, little one," he whispered. "Today is the day we take the next step. Are you ready?" The pup let out a soft bark in response, its bright eyes shining with trust and excitement. He spent the morning checking their surroundings one last time. The city outside was busy, full of alien life, but he had learned its rhythms. He ensured that all devices, alarms, and small mechanisms were ready in case of trouble. Every detail mattered. They were moving forward now, not just surviving, but preparing for a new chapter in their lives. The wolf watched him closely, mimicking his attention to detail, showing that it had learned to anticipate potential dangers. When they finally stepped outside, the mechanic held the pup carefully in his arms. The streets were alive with activity-hovering vehicles, strange alien creatures, and distant machinery. But he moved confidently, knowing they were prepared. He had planned a route that avoided crowded areas, used narrow alleys, and included safe stops along the way. The pup's trust allowed it to stay calm, even in this chaotic environment, its instincts guiding them as much as his planning. As they moved, the mechanic reflected on how far they had come. From the auction, where the wolf had been judged as ugly and weak, to these streets where it moved with quiet confidence, it was clear that appearances had never reflected true strength. The wolf had grown in intelligence, agility, and courage. And he, too, had grown not just as a protector, but as a companion, a teacher, and a friend. Their destination was a small, hidden settlement on the outskirts of the city, a place where they could be safe, away from prying eyes and greedy collectors. The mechanic had found it through careful research and preparation. It was quiet, with space to explore, and close to nature, even on this alien world. As they approached, the pup stirred with excitement, sniffing the air and looking around curiously. "This is it," the mechanic whispered. "Our new home. Here, you can be safe, and we can live without fear." The wolf barked softly and wagged its tiny tail. It jumped gently from his arms to the ground, testing the open space. Its small paws sank slightly into the soft soil, and it began exploring cautiously, ears twitching at every sound. The human watched, heart swelling with pride and relief. They spent the day settling in. He arranged blankets, food, and water for the wolf, created small play areas, and even set up simple devices that would alert him if anyone approached. The pup explored every corner, sniffing carefully, occasionally running back to him for reassurance. It was learning quickly that this place was safe, that he was trustworthy, and that together they could face anything. In the evening, he began introducing more advanced exercises. The wolf had learned agility, intelligence, and basic problem solving, but now he wanted to teach it coordination, awareness, and teamwork. They practiced running through open spaces, jumping over obstacles, and navigating small mazes he had set up. The wolf responded eagerly, showing precision and confidence. It seemed to anticipate his movements, adjusting its own steps in harmony with his guidance. The mechanic realized something incredible. The wolf's intelligence was almost human-like. It understood cause and effect, patterns, and even simple reasoning. It could predict small problems before they occurred and act to prevent them. He had never encountered a creature like this before, and he felt a mixture of pride, awe, and responsibility. The pup was no longer just a companion, it was a partner. That night, they rested under the soft glow of alien stars. The mechanic sat quietly, the wolf curled at his side. "We've come a long way," he whispered, brushing its pale fur gently. "From the auction to here, from fear to trust. You've grown so much, and so have I together. We're stronger than anything the galaxy can throw at us." The wolf shifted closer, pressing its small head against his chest, as if acknowledging every word. The next day brought the first real test of their abilities. While exploring the surrounding area, they encountered signs of other hunters' tracks, tools, and the faint scent of beings who had likely been tracking them since the auction. The mechanic's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He looked at the wolf, who had already noticed the signs, ears flicking and body low. "We can handle this," he whispered. "Stay close, follow my lead." The wolf responded immediately, moving beside him with focused attention, using what they had learned. They navigated carefully, avoiding open areas, moving silently, and using natural cover. The wolf's instincts complemented his planning perfectly. It would pause, sniff the air, or bark softly to alert him of potential danger. Together, they were a team, human and wolf, moving in sync. Aware of their surroundings and ready for anything. At one point, a group of hunters appeared ahead, scanning the area. The mechanic froze, holding the wolf close. They could not risk confrontation. Using their combined skills, they moved silently along a narrow path, hidden by shadows and foliage. The wolf stayed close, responding to his quiet commands and signals. It was a tense moment, but they passed without being noticed. The mechanic felt a surge of pride and relief. Their training had worked, and their bond had kept them safe. After the danger passed, they found a small clearing and rested. The wolf drank water, exploring lightly while staying near him. "You were amazing," he said softly. "I couldn't have done it without you. We make a great team." The wolf barked lightly, a sound that seemed to carry pride and joy. The human smiled, realizing that this partnership had transformed both of them. Days turned into weeks. They established a routine in their new home, training, exploring, resting, and planning for the future. The wolf's abilities continued to grow. It could sense danger, manipulate simple devices, and understand complex instructions. Its intelligence and instincts had become extraordinary, and it had learned to trust the human completely. The human also grew. He learned patience, empathy, and the value of companionship. He discovered that life was not just about survival or skill, but about trust, care, and partnership. Every day with the wolf taught him something new, not just about the galaxy, but about himself. He realized that the bond they shared was rare, unique, and precious. One evening, as they rested under the alien sky, he reflected on their journey. From the chaotic auction to the safe clearing, from fear and uncertainty to trust and confidence, they had overcome every challenge together. The wolf, once judged as ugly and fragile, had proven its strength, intelligence, and courage. And he, once just a mechanic navigating a strange world, had become its protector, teacher, and friend. "You've changed my life," he whispered, brushing its fur gently. "Not just because I saved you, but because I needed you too. Together, we've discovered that appearances don't matter, that trust and courage are stronger than fear, and that even the smallest being can make the biggest difference." The wolf pressed its head against him, as if understanding every word. From that day forward, they lived in harmony. The human continued to repair, invent, and explore, while the wolf grew stronger, smarter, and more confident every day. Together, they explored the nearby forests, streams, and hidden corners of their world, learning, playing, and protecting each other. Their bond became legendary among those few who knew of them, a tale of trust, courage, and the extraordinary power of friendship. And though the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges, the human and the albino wolf pup were ready. They had survived auctions, intruders, and dangers. They had trained, grown, and discovered extraordinary abilities. But most importantly, they had discovered each other. The human smiled as he looked down at the wolf, now standing tall and confident. "No one can take you from me," he whispered. "We've been through too much together. And the future? The future is ours." The wolf barked softly in agreement, its bright eyes full of trust, intelligence, and joy dot together. They watched the alien stars, knowing that whatever the galaxy might throw at them, they would face it as partners, friends, and family. Their journey had begun with chaos and fear, but it had ended with trust, courage, and a bond that would last forever. And so, the human mechanic and the albino wolf pup lived on a story of unlikely friendship, unwavering trust, and the extraordinary power of connection, showing that even in a vast and dangerous universe, kindness, courage, and care could create a bond stronger than any challenge, stronger than fear, and stronger than time itself.